Good Wednesday morning, everybody. I was asked to do this, which I kind of do every year in one way or the other anyway. When did Christians get involved in Christmas? And what's the origins of this thing? And what and why and all that kind of stuff. The first thing that I would like to draw attention to is that there's nothing biblical about Christmas whatsoever. You can put in the mix all you want to. You can say, Christ, I got a neighbor that his whole front yard, he puts this sign up every year, like a big billboard in front of his house that says, Jesus, the reason for the season, or something like that. And I've seen it so much, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically it's Jesus, the reason for the season. And they're Catholics. And I'm not knocking Catholics. That's a form of Christianity. Whether the Baptists want to admit that's a form of Christianity or not, I don't care. It has all stemmed from the book, the Bible, and they all promote this Jesus doctrine. So, but we're talking not about, we're not going to get into defense of the Bible or criticizing the Bible or criticizing Jesus or any of that. That's not the purpose of this. This is Christmas a Christian holiday? Where did Christmas come from, and where did it reach this point of being such a major holiday for Christians? The first point, of course, if you read the Bible, if you actually read the book, nowhere, birthdays are not a prominent thing in the Bible, and the three birthdays that are mentioned in the Bible are all by non-believers, if you will, and they are all not got a good story behind them. You probably remember the most famous one in the New Testament about the beheading. Give me the Pharaoh's daughter, not Pharaoh's daughter, Herod's daughter, for her birthday wanted the head of John the Baptist. So that led to a decapitation. That was the birthday. Okay. What do you want for your birthday? I want the head of this guy over here. Can you decapitate him and give it to me on a platter? Happy birthday, daughter. Real sweet story. And that is, the gist of Bible-related birthdays. In the story of Jesus, there's never any indication as to what time of year, much less the exact date. You would think that if it were an important thing to the founder of Christianity, which would be, who would found it? Oh, Jesus Christ, yes, would be the founder of Christianity. You would think that maybe there would be something there to indicate, hey, I was born on December 25th. Remember that date, because I want stuff. Praise my holy name on December 25th. You would think that, you would think that somehow or other, let's face it, all the presidents of the United States, you can go to Wikipedia and you can find out their birthdays, all of them. Jesus, you can't, you don't know. Okay, but there's a reason for December 25th that we are going to get into. And it's not a reason that Christians like to hear. Trust me, it's something they don't want to hear at all. It don't suit them, But anyway, so nowhere in the Bible does a birthday have any prominence or any good come from it. No celebrations. All of God's people, you never say, oh, we're going to celebrate a birthday, but it's like all the other celebrations that Christians promote and deal with. Nowhere in the Bible to say Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. Just anniversary, all these dates, the celebrations all year long. There's a reason that we do all that. But it's not the best reasons in the world, any of it, trust me, as the almost nefarious reason for Mother's Day, Father's Day. All these celebrations have a alternative purpose that you buy into, but you don't pay attention to. Let's put it that way. Christmas is one of those that evolved in that nature, but the history of, okay, let's tie this in with the Bible again. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 8 says, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. Interesting, because everything that Jesus promoted, talked about, the one thing that he drew attention to was the end of a matter. He never drew attention to Never does the Bible say Jesus stood there. I was born of a virgin on this day. This is the story. This is how it happened. Remember that every year. Remember when I was born. That's how I want to be remembered. No, far from it. The one thing he said to keep doing was the Last Supper. It fell on Passover. So it had something to do with the end of the matter, not the beginning of the matter. See, up until a certain point in Christianity, up until really around the 4th century, Easter was the main holiday, and Easter fell in conjunction with the death and resurrection of Christ. And now they've even flipped that around, because for a Christian, according to the Bible, it's not the resurrection of Jesus that was important. It was the death, the spilling of his blood, that atonement, that sacrifice. You see how this gets twisted? There's a reason for this twisting. It's the same thing that came in line with Christmas that we're going to get into here, so be patient. So why we end up, even with Easter, we've got the Easter bunny, we got colored eggs, we got the ham, we got all this stuff that no biblical basis whatsoever. So at the crucifixion of Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus, I don't find anywhere in any writings where the followers of Jesus got together and said, oh, let's get some eggs and paint them and hide them in the weeds and the bushes and do this colored egg thing, Easter egg hunt. No. And again, what was the important part of this story? The Passion of Christ. And it's gone. It's pushed to the corner. It's that, they have a little bit of a Friday thing. Good Friday. But the focus is on that Easter Sunday. You see, they got it. So Jesus, the focus and the importance to someone that follows his story, if you read the story, was not on the resurrection of Jesus. In fact, the resurrection was kind of even disputed among his followers. It wasn't a great ha ha ha. The big thing was the spilling of the blood. That's why you have a communion. That's why Jesus said, drink from this cup, this wine, for it, what? It's my blood. Eat this bread. He didn't say wafer. He said bread. Eat this bread. This represents my flesh. That's the only thing Jesus said to do. Keep doing this in remembrance of me. So the Christian interpretation of that is to keep doing that. And of course, they abuse that because they have communion every time they open the church doors. Like, let's have communion. Communion's at 7 every day, So they keep doing it ad nauseum, and they miss the entire intent of what was being conveyed there. So to a Christian, what's important about this Jesus story was the spilling of his blood, the sacrificial death. That is where they got their atonement. That's where they got their Jesus died for my sins. They say it every day, but they don't focus on that with their celebrations. Easter and Christmas, there's a reason, and they started for the same reason. Easter, not a Christian holiday, not a Bible-based holiday. Christmas, not a Bible-based holiday. It has nothing to do with Jesus. Christians around the 4th century brought this stuff in with them. In Rome, in the 4th century, Constantine was out to accomplish what his father had failed to do, and that was unite the Roman Empire. He was off in battle. He had this epiphany, so he came back and said, as I was marching through battle to win this battle, I saw a cross in the heavens. Well, you look at the sun and you see all kind of crosses, right? But anyway, I saw the cross in heaven. So Constantine himself was what would be called a pagan, an outsider. He wasn't a Christian. But what they did is they took, to make it palatable, they wanted to form one state religion for the purpose of uniting the Roman Empire. So they took Christianity And they took all these pagan practices and said, let's just intertwine all this stuff. Let's just make it all together. We're already celebrating December 25th, so hey, Jesus' birthday. Okay, that came along. I'm not saying all this came along instantaneously. It started around the 4th century. I'm not saying that Constantine was the total reason that this evolved over a period of time. That's not my point. I'm abbreviating this, I'm telling it in great brevity, but this is basically the story. So this is when that Christmas became a part of Christianity. It was in that era, in that period of time when Christianity was becoming, in essence, a world empire. Before then, Christianity was not that big a thing, but it was becoming such a thing. So some would say that there was some evidence to suggest that Jesus' birth took in the spring instead of the winter, and that's still speculation. That's just saying, well, there's, could have been summertime, whenever. It basically could say that, according to the story, because shepherds were out herding their sheep, you would have to say that, possibly it took place, and it certainly took place in warmer months and not in the dead of winter. But there's a reason they chose the dead of winter, okay? And and it's the same reason they chose spring when it falls. All right. So there was a Pope, Pope Julius II, and he was Pope from December of 1443 through February of 1513, head of the Catholic Church. He is the one that chose December 25th. And it was chosen so that they could adopt and absorb into Christianity these traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival, which they first called it the Feast of the Nativity. And slowly this spread to Egypt by 432 and to England by the end of the 6th century. It was a slow spread. It wasn't just a jump for joy type of thing. By the end of the 8th century, the celebration of Christmas has spread all the way to Scandinavia. Today, the Greek and Russian Orthodox churches, Christmas is celebrated 13 to 14 days after the 25th. And this is because the Western churches use a Gregorian calendar, while Eastern churches use the Julian calendar, which is 13 to 14 days behind the Gregorian calendar. Both the Western and Eastern churches celebrate Epiphany, or Three Kings Day, 12 days after their own respective Christmases. This is the day it's believed that the three wise men finally found Jesus in the manger. But anyway, by holding Christmas at the same time as the traditional winter solstice festivals, church leaders could increase the chances that Christmas would be popularly embraced, but gave up the ability to dictate how it was to be celebrated. See, this was all a church maneuver that happened hundreds of years after the story supposedly happened. It wasn't like Jesus put to death, resurrected, and then immediately Paul came along and said, we're going to have this holiday, this holiday. No, hundreds of years of followers of this Christ story never touched these holidays as they evolved. In the Middle Ages, Christianity had for the most part replaced the pagan religion. On Christmas, believers attended church and celebrated raucously. They were drunken carnival festivals, atmospheres similar to the Mardi Gras. And each year, a beggar, a student would be crowned the Lord of Misrule, and eager celebrants played the part of the subjects. The poor would go to the houses of the rich and demand the best food and drinks. If owners failed to comply, their visitors would most likely terrorize them with mischief. Kind of like Halloween, right? Trick or treat. Christmas became the time of year when the upper classes could repay their real or imagined debt to society by entertaining less fortunate citizens. And we still do that shit today. They ignore them all year long at Christmas time. I may get these people whatever, because it's a holiday. But it didn't always stay. Even just a short time, a couple hundred years later, In the early 17th century, a wave of religious reform changed the way that Christmas was celebrated in Europe. If you're a student of religion, of Christianity, you've heard of Oliver Cromwell. And Oliver Cromwell and his Puritan forces took over England in 1645, and they vowed to rid England. They vowed to rid England of the decadence. And a part of that effort was to cancel Christmas because Christmas was full of decadence. By popular demand, Charles II was restored to the throne, and with him came the return of Christmas. So once the church canceled it, economically, Christmas is a big thing. So the king said, we need Christmas because we need the economics. We need people. It's the dead of winter. We want people to party and buy and spend. The Pilgrims, the English separatists that came to America in 1620, were even more orthodox in their Puritan beliefs than Cromwell. And as a result of that, Christmas was not a holiday of early America. From 1659 to 1681, the celebration of Christmas was actually outlawed in Boston. Anyone exhibiting the Christmas spirit was fined 5 shillings in the United States of America. By contrast, in the Jamestown settlement, Captain John Smith reported that Christmas was enjoyed by all and passed without incident. After the American Revolution, English customs fell out of favor, including Christmas. Christmas wasn't declared a federal holiday until June 26, 1870. What did these poor people do between the time of Jesus' birth and 1870? How did they appease their Christian bullshit? I don't know. They did. They did, strangely and interestingly enough. Well, and then came along, not even a fervently religious person, a writer, the 19th century. See, this tradition of Christmas is not that old, folks, not at all. But Washington Irving, who some of you literary people who like to read and like literature, came along the 19th century. Not too far ago, I knew people that were alive in the 19th century. That is how close to today the 19th century is. Because I knew people that were born in the 19th century. But it wasn't until the 19th century that Americans really began to embrace Christmas. And Americans then reinvented Christmas and changed it from this raucous carnival holiday, Saturnalia, to a family-centered day of peace and nostalgia. But what about the 1800s piqued American interest in the holiday? The early 19th century was a period of class conflict and turmoil. During this time, unemployment was high. Gang rioting by the disenchanted classes often occurred during the Christmas season. Treason, yes. In 1828, the New York City Council instituted the city's first police force. That's how look how long we survived without police. I want you to think about that a minute. Excuse me for one moment. So you start digging into history, and all this interesting stuff comes to light that you don't hear about because we're caught in this bubble of time and space, and we can't get out of this bubble. It's a shame. It is very much a shame. Now, 1828, the New York City Council instituted the city's first police force in response to a Christmas riot. Police forces. All this time we had no police forces, and all of a sudden we can't dismantle a police force or we'll all just die. God. This catalyzed certain members of the upper class to begin to change the way Christmas was celebrated in America. So in 1819, this best-selling author, which you know anything about literature, Washington Irving, wrote the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon Gent, a series of stories about the celebration of Christmas in a English manor house. All fiction, by the way. The sketches feature a squire who invited the peasants into his home for the holiday. Yeah, we'll see that happen. Yeah, show me that in America. Show me where somebody opens up their mansion to the homeless people and the poor people of Birmingham. Mountain Brook, okay? I'm waiting. They got the cross out there. Yeah, maybe my middle class neighbors ain't gonna do that shit. They won't invite me over. Sketches. In contrast to the problems faced in American society, the two groups mingled effortlessly. Yeah. Oh, they have body odor. Oh. In Irving's mind, Christmas should be a peaceful, warm-hearted holiday, bringing groups together along lines of wealth and social status. Irving's fictitious celebrants enjoyed ancient customs, including the crowning of a lord of misrule. Irving's book, however, was not based on any holiday celebration that he had ever attended. In fact, many historians say that Irving's account actually invented tradition by implying that it described the true customs of the season, which it did not. Well, let's go on further. You've heard of Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol. Yeah, about the same time, we got that English author involved in it. The story's message, the importance of charity and goodwill towards the humankind, struck a powerful chord in the United States and England and showed members of the Victorian society the benefits of celebrating the holiday. You see, none of this came from the Bible. None of this came from Christianity. You put this Jesus, the reason for the season bullshit anywhere you want to, it does not make it true, because it's not true. This is well documented. The family was also becoming less disciplined and more sensitive to the emotional needs of children during the 1800s. Christmas provided families with a day when they could lavish attention and gifts on their little children without appearing to spoil them. Oh, I did not buy anything for you all year, but I'm going to spoil you this one day. In the name of Jesus. As Americans began to embrace Christmas as a perfect family holiday, old customers, ancient customers were unearthed. People looked toward recent immigrants and Catholic and Episcopalian churches to see how the day should be celebrated. So over the next 100 years, Americans built a Christmas tradition, all their own, that included pieces of many of other customs, including the decorating of trees. Interjecting a thought, let's go to Jeremiah, decorating trees, the 10th chapter, and start in the second verse. Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails or the hammers. They will not move. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also can they do any good. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just what it is. Whatever. It's all pagan stuff, and you claim it for Christianity. Although most families quickly bought into the idea that they were celebrating Christmas how it had been done for centuries, which is bullshit, Americans had really reinvented a holiday to fill the cultural needs of a growing nation. Capitalism. All right, so how did we get this Santa Claus figure in there? Well, Santa Claus can be traced back to a monk named Saint Nicholas, who was born in Turkey around 280 AD. AD? That's before Christ. Okay. St. Nicholas gave away all his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside, helping the poor and the sick, becoming known as the protector of children and sailors. St. Nick first entered American popular culture in the late 18th century in New York, when Dutch families began to honor the anniversary of the death of St. Nicholas. Dutch for St. Nicholas, or Sinterklaas for short. Santa Claus, Santa Claus. It came from that abbreviation. In 1822, an Episcopal minister, Clement Clark Moore, wrote a Christmas poem called An Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas, which became more popularly known today by its first line. You ready for this? 'Twas the night before Christmas. 1822. The poem depicted Santa Claus as a jolly man who flies from home to home on a sled driven by reindeer to deliver toys. This iconic version of Santa Claus as a jolly man in red with a white beard and a sack of toys was immortalized in 1881 when political cartoonist Thomas Nast drew on Moore's poem to create the image of old Saint Nick that we know today. And then you can add to that in the early part of the 20th century, Coca-Cola advertising. And that's where you get Santa Claus come from, and that's where you got your Christmas and Christmas traditions, which have absolutely nothing to do with your Bible story and absolutely zero to do with your Jesus. And that's why most Christians are hypocritical, as they do the same thing the Wiccans do. They do the same thing the pagans do. There you go. You want the story of how it all came into play. How it all came into play. Ecclesiastes 7:8, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. And patience is better than pride. Well, you don't hear that. That's not promoted. Number one, we promote the birthday. That's why we have child worship in our country. Literally, child worship. And that's also why we have, pride. I'm proud to be American. I'm proud. I got school pride. I got pride. Everything but anything that's biblical. The Christians are the Antichrist. The church is the Antichrist. And I don't care. It don't matter to me whether you believe in it or not. But stop being a freaking hypocrite. Yeah, that'd be nice. Have a good day.